Sweet.
Should pop
Excellent.
up for you.
Yes, sir. We're
Yeah.
good.
All
Yeah,
right.
whenever you're ready,
Well,
bro.
I'll go ahead and get it rolling. Well, Colin, thank you so much for joining me, my dude.
Thanks for
I know
having me.
JD3 connected us. JD's a guy I think very highly of, man. He's a smart dude. And so when he recommended that we connect, I was like, all right, this is going to be a quality dude. And so I started looking into your podcast. I know we talked a little bit, man. And I describe you as a self-starter. Like you don't let shit get in your way. You're like, I'm going to figure it out. And you're very interested in different facets of life and improving yourself, which are huge components to me. But before I get more into that, I like my guests to introduce themselves. So, if you had to give your elevator pitch, who's Colin Slager?
Wow, that was a hell of an intro. So I think I'm good on my stuff. I appreciate the words, man. And yeah, thanks for JD3. Shout out to you, brother. Quality human, getting us together. And because I think we're gonna have a good time. I know we've talked prior to this, but yeah, my name is Colin Slager. Currently live in Indianapolis, Noblesville area to be exact. And I have my own nutrition and rehab company. So I do nutrition coaching, exercise rehabilitation, whether that's pain or restrictions with movement. And then I have a company I'm involved with. It's called Simply Nano. We do nanotechnology, and we've created a top of the line CBD wellness cream with that technology. So first of its kind, that's objectively, we're the first ones to do what we're doing in the world with that. And I also have my own podcast, Off the Dome Radio, that I do with my good friend Tim, and that's been just over 2 years in the making. So yeah, I have, as you mentioned, I have my hand in a few different things, but I think I've found my lanes, I've found my niches, and that's what I'm rolling with right now. So those are the waves I'm riding, and just seeing what happens day in and day out. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. So I appreciate you having me, and looking forward to it, bro.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. So you mentioned you have your lanes. And one thing that I find interesting about you is you started your own shit. Like you kind of fell on some adversity a little bit, like through the pandemic. And you were like, you know what? I'm going to start my own thing. Yeah, I might not be able to, pay rent for a little while, or I might have to wonder, when I'm going to get this going, but I'm going to start my own thing. Like, where did you get the confidence and, the drive to do this?
Man, I had to get knocked down a little bit, and I didn't have I didn't have a rough upbringing. I had a great childhood, phenomenal parents that are, they've always been together. So, but they're both entrepreneurial, and kind of going through college and then a little after college, working in corporate America, I realized man, I see how unhappy people are. And no matter where you're at, some people love that type of gig. They just find their role and they love it. That's awesome. Happy for those people. I couldn't do that work. And, maybe if I fell in something different, would have been a different outcome, but it's not how it was supposed to go. And I was working as head of rehab and nutrition in a chiropractic office. And then the pandemic hit. And before March was over, I lost my job. Another chiropractor in that same office lost his job. And so that day I was just like, man, what a kick in the dick. Like I loved that gig. I was really good at what I was doing. Our team was jiving, and hey, can't pay you anymore. And for me, that was business. That wasn't, oh, now I hate that guy who laid me off. No, my dad running his business throughout his life, he's had to lay people off. I know that's how it goes. And I had always known I was going to have to work for myself, that I could be an employee, but I'm not really employable anymore. I'm at the point where I just got to be on my own. And so the other chiropractor that got laid off, his name is Dr. Owens, good buddy of mine, hell of a chiropractor. We decided, he's like, hey, I know this lady. She owns a CrossFit gym. She's got an extra office. You and I talked about doing our own thing. What would you think? We could split rent, share the space. So that's exactly what we did. And he has his chiropractic business. I do my own nutrition and rehab. We kind of fuel each other, but we're our own entities legally. So we were both like, hey, I don't want to work for you. I don't want you to be the boss of me, and vice versa. And it's nice, you know, you get to build a business from scratch with a friend of yours that you guys had the same adversity, you know, and it's either just go find another gig. Like I could go have another interview, do whatever, or kind of be in the trenches for a while, eat shit. And, you know, I hopped on unemployment and I hated it. I hated having to be in that position. And I was talking to a friend of mine, done very well for himself. He's like, no, man, see what the thing is, you're using it how it's supposed to be used as the step up to accomplish what you're really working at. So I kind of made my peace with that, put my pride to the side. And I was like, okay, you know, I need to live right now. That's the help, a nice launch pad. And so now I can cover my bills, and, you know, I'm not like rolling in it, but it's that slow start. It's working, you know, and based on the path I chose, I don't have a doctor in front of my name. Makes things a little harder. It's not a complaint, just situational. And so I'm finding ways to market differently and do all that. So in terms of, I know it's a long-winded answer, the motivation is I needed kind of the boot in the ass. And I think I was slow to get there while I still had my plan A, you know, my full-time job. And I think, you know, God kind of gave me that hard boot in the ass of like, all right, put up or shut up. Like, you want to do it. Let's see you do it. Or we know what you're going to have to default to, which you won't be happy with. So yeah. The motivation, I mean, yeah, I had great examples of parents, entrepreneurial in that aspect, and just a way of, okay, if I really want to be somebody, make something and live a life that I want to live, I need to create on my own. That's how I think I personally need to get there. So yeah, a few things went into play, but yeah, I mean, you get beat up a little bit, then it's like, all right, it's time to beat up the system back a little bit.
Yeah. Straight up, man. I think there's something to that adversity piece, and it always interests me how people respond to it, because, you know, some people absolutely fold, and it's just, you know, the end of their shit. They're like, oh, I lost my job, can't take this anymore. You know, they get in a situation where they're, you know, on unemployment or whatever, and, you know, they have to, you know, keep that going because they're like, oh, this is just my normal now. And you use it as a safety net, like it was intended, like boom, bounce, you know, back up here. We're back out here in the streets again, doing my thing. So I think that's fantastic, man. You know, one thing that you talked about was marketing yourself, and, you know, being able to put yourself out there. You got to do it differently because you don't have the doctor in front of your name. Talk to me about that a little bit, man, because you do a great job at that. You know, putting yourself out there. I see the stuff you do. Just even the way you guys discuss improvement and, you know, marketing yourself and stuff like that on your podcast, I think is interesting. So, you know, talk to me a little bit about how you've learned to market yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Honestly, trial and error. And I really hate having to use as much social media as I need to use. Like, there's so many platforms, and I'm getting on Clubhouse and TikTok. Those are my two new ones now.
Okay.
And because I had a buddy, he sent me something, this movement guy on TikTok, you know, had his shirt off, was in decent shape, had his blue light blocking glasses, was talking about this movement, that movement. I'm like, all right, those aren't incorrect, but man, this is dull to watch. And it's just like, give me a little character, give me some juice, you know? And my buddy sends it. He goes, dude, this is what you need to make. I was like, fuck. Yeah, I think I could probably do a little better, a little more, just jazz it up. And so I need to market differently in the sense of what I do and how I do it. Because a lot of people don't understand, oh, he's like your movement specialist, but does nutrition. Like, what's he really do? And it's like, we know what a chiropractor does. We know how much they have in their wheelhouse, what they can do. But I also do a lot of breath work and movement control, and kind of that mind to muscle awareness of our bodies get good at what we train, and unfortunately they get good at what we train. So I help teach people, whether they're injured or not, you know, being stable through your trunk and core, using air and breathing. So it's really a lot of human optimization, but I need to show that in video form. And that's what I'm working on now, is showing, okay, this is why we do this. This prevents X, Y, Z. You know, if you don't breathe and move correctly, you compensate. Then you build up pain because of compensation or imbalances. So, you know, and people not they don't know what they don't know. It's like, oh, all right, he's kind of the movement guy. If I need a stretch, I'll go see him. It's like, yeah, I have stretches for sure, or exercises, whatever you need, but it's hands-on, watching somebody move and how they breathe, and correcting all that for not just reactive but preventative. So yeah, that's the marketing for that. And as far as the podcast, trying to do more like stories, especially with kind of the camera facing us, more stories. We're incorporating video. We got a GoPro, putting our stuff up on YouTube, because people like, podcast is to listen, but everyone loves watching podcasts. Like, who doesn't love watching Joe Rogan in his spaceship, interviews, right? So we've incorporated kind of the video piece, and it's just, I've realized people like to see who's doing the thing.
Yeah.
You can post things all day. You can repost, you can, clips of this and that, but live updates and seeing the faces behind it is what people get attracted to. And so I was like, oh, we weren't doing that enough. And now if I do a story, I'm like, the first one you do is kind of scary. It's like, oh man, camera's on me. Like, I'm going to do like 50 takes and like, oh, it's not perfect. Dude, fuck it. Like, hold it high, let it fly. You know what I mean? And it's just, you do enough, and who doesn't get put on or off by some opinions of others. It's a hard one to get out of. But at this point, like, we can talk about self-growth to get to that point, and all your insecurities. But now I'm like, fuck it, dude. If someone doesn't like it, you're 2 clicks away to unfollow me.
Straight up.
And it's like, I'm going to live on all my terms. So in my grave, I'm like, oh man, I did it how I wanted to do it, not because my boss said, this is when you got to be here, this is when you leave, this is how you do this and that. So it's a big mental shift, marketing yourself for sure. But yeah, that's kind of how I'm navigating those channels in terms of marketing, what I'm trying to do different. And stuff with like the Simply Nano, the CBD, that's just promoting because I love it. I use it 3 times a day.
Okay.
So that's just like, just showing the love of, hey, like, this is why I love it. I think everyone should be on it, do it or don't. But yeah, in terms of the hardcore marketing, putting yourself out there, it was a big mental shift for me. I had to get used to just letting it go. You do it, you fumble a few words, you slur a few words, just let it go, man. And, it'll get better along the way. It's never going to be perfect.
Straight up, man. I think that, kind of that 80% mentality, if it's good enough, if it's 80%, just fucking put it out there and move on, and you'll get better eventually. Like you said, I know people tend to dislike their voice. That's one thing. It's like the number one thing people hate about recording themselves and, getting on either a podcast or a video. They're like, I just don't like the way my voice sounds. And I'm like, you're not hearing your voice the same way that you hear it inside your head, because it's resonating inside your head and stuff. So no one's going to sound the same. So get over it. This is how you sound to everyone else. Deliver your message, deliver your value, and do your thing. So I think that's cool that you were able to move through that, man, because I think you guys add a lot of value. So talk to me about, you mentioned breath work, you mentioned movement. I find those interesting. I broke my neck. I'm paralyzed from essentially my chest down. And so I do a lot of compensation. I have to, change the way I sit and stuff like that. And my diaphragm doesn't work well. But I found that breathing properly helps encourage a lot of, even postural things. It helps encourage you moving correctly and not exerting yourself in ways that are harmful. So tell me about, some of the value of breath work and things.
So I'm on because you mentioned you had a snowmobile accident, right?
Yep, crashed into a fucking dock, man. Woke up looking at the sky like, oh shit.
Fuck, dude. Oh, it's terrifying.
It's crazy.
But I'm glad you're still with us, man.
Hey, that's hell yeah.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
But yeah, so man, the breath gets, I'm gonna nerd out a little bit. It gets so undervalued and underappreciated. It doesn't get the attention it deserves. I've been on a pretty deep dive on breathing for a while, especially nasal breathing. So we're meant to breathe in and out of our nose. That's just physiologically what we were meant to do and how we were meant to do it. But we start this big mouth breathing, and we breathe through our chest. We let our chest rise and collapse. And I don't know what kind of movement, I know you're paralyzed chest down. I don't know what kind of movement you have diaphragmatically a little below that, but I tell people we want to think of our diaphragm as like a balloon of stability within our body. So, for anyone just listening, when I say trunk, I'm thinking a 360 view of kind of your stomach, your sides, your obliques, and through your low back. That kind of full window there is what I call your trunk. A lot of things going on. And commonly we'll use weightlifting. It's an easy example. We take a deep breath, our chest gets super high and our waist gets really small. And then we're unstable, but we think that's a deep breath. We should be doing the opposite. As we inhale, we should expand our trunk, our stomach, our back, our sides, they should go out as we breathe in, which is kind of backwards to what we get used to. We get used to aesthetics too, sucking it in, belly button to spine. I've had some yoga instructor patients where I'm like, all right, I'm going to really jack up your breathing style. And you might not agree at first, but just, you got to roll with me. So when we breathe that way, we stabilize our spine, and things can work and move better inside, which results in how we move better outside. So when we can be stable in our trunk, that's core activation and core stability. People think, oh, 6-pack, strong core. Not necessarily. I've known a lot of people with a bigger gut that have a really strong, stable trunk, and they don't have 6-pack to show for it.
Yeah.
So with that, no matter what someone sees me for, if there's a pain thing or not, I start with that type of breath work, and it's called dynamic neuromuscular stabilization. So DNS for short, but it's using your breath and then controlling the way your body moves. So you are telling your body how it needs to move. And if it can't move that way, then we assess why it can't move that way. So when you breathe that way, you reduce compensation. Let's take like an overhead, barbell, dumbbell, overhead press something. You get a good breath, your chest is falling and collapsing. It really shouldn't have that type of movement. Your trunk right below your rib cage, you should be breathing strong with that. Exhale on your hard parts, but you should still be holding that good core stability. And if you lose that, maybe you start working through your traps. Maybe you go all tricep, or you just start to recruit certain movement patterns that maybe for the first few months, first year, 2 year, you don't feel any pain until it starts to over and over and over again. So then it's like, oh, now I hurt, because you're going to hammer the same muscle group over and over. So when you breathe properly, you reduce compensation. So like standing, or just, a lot of squatting, anything, we go to quads and hip flexors for, that's our biggest compensation point. We lose our breathing through our core. We lose glute activation, the muscles in our ass, we start to not use those, and then everything else takes over instead. And that's like, oh man, I get hunched over. So we start the hips hunched over, and then everything kind of fuels that. But in terms of, nasal breathing, when you do that, you can control stress with your breath. So that can be, oh man, I'm sitting in traffic for an hour, I'm late for this meeting, just start doing slow inhales and exhales with your nose, because what that does, that increases your tolerance to CO2, and CO2 kind of hits kind of like the smoke detector inside our body. It's like, something's about to go a little haywire. Let's gear up. Maybe that's whatever fight or flight response. Gym to you're in physical danger. Having more nasal breathing throughout your day can help your body handle better stress. So when you hit those high stress points, you just start doing your nasal breaths, and you'll notice your heart rate comes down. You calm down. To, after a high intensity workout, as quick as I can, I close my mouth and start hitting the nasal breathing. What that does, you need CO2 to help release the oxygen in your blood from the hemoglobin. So the more adapt you are to nasal breathing, the more oxygen you actually get in the bloodstream. When you hit a certain level of exertion, you're going to use your mouth to breathe, but people think, I need more air down. Air doesn't equate to oxygen.
Huh.
So the faster you can start to breathe in and out through your nose, right after a workout, like I said, any high stress environment before going to sleep, just like long inhales and exhales through your nose, just calms down the whole central nervous system. And you can handle stress a lot better. And, we know chronic stress leads to chronic inflammation, leads to how many diseases and issues in your body. So when you start to add it all up, it's like, oh man, I don't know, breathing was such a big thing. Well, what do we do the most every day? We can control what we eat, drink, sleep, and breathe. So let's focus on those more than anything. But I get why, breathing is so, it's just what we do every day. Let's be conscious about what we're doing because we do it all day, every day.
Yeah.
So put the nerd glasses on for that one. I'm on a deep breathing rabbit hole. But it has helped my performance in the gym for sure. Just endurance, cardiovascular, not that I'm out running miles, but just breath work can improve performance tenfold. A lot of science with that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested if you start doing like some nasal breathing, trying to just expand that diaphragm. Again, I don't know how much motion you get below the chest a little bit, but if you can start doing that, I'd be curious to see how that helps with how you're feeling, posture. I mean, they link posture to mood. That's been studied. So man, shit's wild. Yeah. Posture and mood are heavily correlated.
That's crazy, man. And that is something to think about. I used to teach classes on how to give presentations. And one of the things I did was talent development for a while, like in HR. And one of the things we'd always talk about is body language and how your body language conveys certain messages and even impacts how you feel. It's like if you're, kind of closed off and your arms are, crossed and stuff, you start to feel closed off, which means you start to react closed off, and it's amazing how these things compound. And so I find that very interesting with breath work, because it seems like those simple things in life, we all, won't listen to, and we all just kind of take for granted, like, saving money. Hey, don't spend as much as you make. It's super simple formula. You know what I mean? Like, but look at how many people are paycheck to paycheck. Like it's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about, movement and wellness, man, I know a lot of people are hunched over computers. So, there's probably some posture things there. I know it's probably not good practice to just like, generalize and diagnose people, but in general, if you had to,
let's generalize and diagnose.
Right. What are some of those things? Like, if you look at the average person, you're like, hey, most people have this problem with their movement or their stability or.
I'd say the most common thing with posture and movement aside, we're such a sedentary culture, but that rounded shoulder, forward shoulder and neck, just the syndrome just escaped me. It was oh dang, I forget what it's called. But forward shoulders and neck. Sorry, dogs are trying to get in. But we work over computers. I'm over a computer most of the day, just about every day. So what happens, we collapse our chest, pecs get super tight. And then we're rounding our upper back, our traps, maybe our shoulders are in our ears too. We're stressed out. We're hunched over for an hour or two. It's like, oh dang, I haven't even drank water for 2 hours. So, I mean, some just simple things, just try to get up and move once an hour, or, even just, that big stretch feels really good. Just stuff like that. But, if someone wants to like get a foam roll and you lay on it perpendicular. So, and just like roll your upper back over it. So worried about the motion going backwards, and that can drive more extension through your thoracic spine, because we're so forward. Now we need to feed it the opposite.
Okay.
But, people get in trouble when they live here and then they're like hammer chest 2-3 days a week. And it's like, dude, we're just fueling the fire, man. Like, work opposite.
Yeah.
So, and just like, just stretching. I mean, some people have a hyper flexibility problem, which, okay, the outliers, but for most people, man, just stretching, because we hold so much emotion in our fascia, our connective tissue as well. I've talked to massage therapists. They're like, yeah, I've worked on a certain spot on someone and they just start crying. It's just on the table, just start losing it. It's like, well, we hold emotion inside muscle, which it's like, no, there's no way. But, we do. You have all these emotions all the time running through. It's like, okay, if something releases, we can trigger something else. But if you're longer, David Goggins, I don't know if you're familiar with David Goggins.
Love that dude, man.
Yeah. So
Love him.
He's an extreme guy, to say the least. But
yeah,
he says he stretches 2 hours a night. I'm like, oh, Jesus. But, there is something to be said. He's like, I was so tight. My body was so wound up and so tight. Everything like was just in freak out mode. And that happens though too. It's like, people think, stretching. It's like, okay, no, we need to stretch because we have to make things long. And that relaxes our central nervous system. It can relax just us in general. So simple stuff like that, feed the opposite of what your body's used to all day, every day. Do the opposite. If you're sitting all day, all right, go walk 10,000 steps. It's like 30, 45-minute walk. I think we could do that. Most people have dogs.
Go call somebody on the phone,
Yeah. Take up golfing. I don't know, something.
Yeah.
Get some steps in. But yeah, it's just, we need to move. People need to learn how to rotate. It's just the fundamental things, bending over to pick stuff up, rotating, bending over with rotation. To where it's like, I hate when someone's like, oh yeah, I was moving and I bent over and I was pulling this couch and then my back went out. I'm like, well, that's a recipe for back disaster if you're not used to training that. So yeah, I think the biggest thing is as I'm kind of hunched over, is the rounded shoulders and neck, especially with how much we're on phones. We're standing and our head and neck are tilted down so far forward. It's like, let's stand a little taller. I don't care if it looks weird, stand a little taller.
Yeah.
But yeah, simple stuff like that. And it's just, being conscious of, if you're at your desk, I understand you get into something and it's like, you're cranking out an hour, 2 hours. Once you realize it, like, oh, all right, let me get up and move, go walk down the stairs in your building, or go to the water cooler, have the water cooler talk. I don't know, just move a little bit. And I think we neglect some of the easy things. We overcomplicate it, and it's just get back to basics.
Straight up, man. And shit, you're talking about Goggins. Like, if I remember correctly, his doctors thought he had like a thyroid issue or something at some point because he's so wound up tight. And I remember it actually made him shorter. Like, he was like an inch shorter because of how tight his body was. So that shit's crazy, man.
Yeah.
And
so if you're going to the doctor and they're going to take your height and weight, stretch first if you want to get taller on your driver's license. I got 5'11" 3/4. I was like, are you guys for? They're like, oh, that's what it is. I was like, how much better 6 feet looks to like every other girl than 5'11".
Right.
You guys gonna do me like that?
All right. Do me like that for a 1/4 inch, bro.
I remember your all's names. All right. So what kind of referrals you all get? Yeah. But
Right.
yeah, simple things, move a little bit, stretch, just, if you work out a couple days a week, don't have to be anything crazy. You don't have to be one of these stupid influencers on Instagram, 2-a-days, this and that. Nah, man. Average bear just needs to move a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good, man. I think our bodies were designed to move, man. And we just
hunter gatherers, man. How do you think we got our shit?
Right. Yeah.
Man,
they didn't have to throw those rocks.
Yeah, they didn't have Amazon Prime delivering their groceries.
Right.
Like, man, they were hunting animals with sharpened sticks, boy. Like,
shit's so low effort now. Like, we're just like, people are like, oh man, I can't get 10,000 steps in. Like, that's crazy.
Right. Yeah. It's I heard Rogan talk about it. I think it was with Marcus Luttrell, and they referenced the saying, I forget who coined it, but hard times make strong and tough men. And then they make easy times make soft and weak men, and soft and weak men make hard times make tough and strong men. So we got this cycle.
Yep.
But it's like, how easy do we have it? I mean, yeah, you can order your groceries to your door. You don't have to leave the house. You can work from home. You don't have to leave the house. Just let your dog out. If you got a fenced in yard, don't have to leave your house. Like, we have all the convenience, and we see how reactive that is too, of like, oh man, like people are losing the taste of hard labor and work. It's like, man, we can't lose sight of that. Like we still got to do hard shit. And not that I'm a Goggins, but that's his thing. Is like, hey Joe, stay hard, motherfucker.
Who's going to carry the boats?
Yeah, right. So, but I think there's an element and a portion of that everyone needs to like, man, all right, I got to do something that's hard, whether it's on my body or my mind. We've talked to this guy, Ryan Mickler, has a podcast, Order of Man. He does jujitsu. He's like, man, I think everyone needs to get beat up a little bit. Like you need to put your body through some things. And yeah, whatever it is, maybe it's just, oh man, I just hit it at the gym, or I roll, or I do boxing, whatever. Just put your body and mind through something to where your mind has to tell your body, no, you have more. You got a little more. So yeah, there's, I think, something to that. But yeah.
I think so too, man. Hell, going back to that adversity piece we were talking about in the beginning, like I think that brings something out of you, because one thing I've learned about life is it's inevitable that you're going to have hard times. Like shit's going to suck. You're going to get to a point where you're not going to know what the fuck to do. You couldn't anticipate these things happening to you. And how equipped are you for that? Have you done some shitty stuff before that when you get to that moment, you'll be like, okay, I've been in something like this. I can survive this. Or do you freak out at every chance of, when you face adversity or when hard things come your way, and then when the shit does happen that you can't do anything about, you're like, oh man, and then you just fold,
Yeah. And it's
so
like,
I think you really have to put yourself through it,
Yeah. And it's like, look, man, I couldn't imagine like, something that you went through. It's like being paralyzed. You told me before that you were super fit, like you were pretty yoked, like top of line shape, and then that freak accident happens, man, that, doc comes out of nowhere. And like, I couldn't imagine the mental battle.
Crazy.
But look at you. I mean, you're back to DJing, you got a podcast, you're working full time. Like, you're a family man. Like it's, you had a pretty big speed bump, but you didn't let it be your roadblock. It's like, all right, man, it's through or I'm done.
Yeah.
So I either keep going or I don't. So yeah, I mean, in terms of adversity, like, yeah, you beat it up, man.
I appreciate that, bro.
Yeah.
For real. It's been, it hasn't been an easy road, man. There's some days I was like, fuck, like, all my plans that, I had in mind, I don't know if I'll be able to realize those. Like, maybe this isn't worth it. And I was like, nah, you know what? There's always a chance. Like if something this bad can happen to me, something equally as good can happen to me, And if I put in the work to steer myself that direction, I increase the chance that something good does happen,
Yeah.
So I don't know, just for me, I'm always big on not being a victim of my circumstances, because life for me has been a little tough, single mom and stuff growing up. She did the best she could, and I did good at school, and it allowed me some opportunities. But yeah, man, shit can be as good or as bad as you want it to be, I think. And I think it's all in how you go into it and all in how you approach it, and what you feed your brain, I think, is important too,
Yeah. And man, it's tough to get there. Like you hear a lot of people on podcasts, or, half the stuff on social media is garbage. They don't show the hard stuff, right? It's
Right.
Everything's always hunky dory. Like, no, it's not. But it's a hard mindset of, okay, like, fuck, this hurt really bad, whatever it is, an emotional thing, a physical injury, it's like, why? We always want to know why. And whether people are faith driven or not, it's not up to us to know why always. Right. And I'm currently in some battles, like, man, like, what gives, bro? Like, come on, like, give me a little something for the effort. Like, but then it's, to your point, yeah, not being the victim. I mean, we're all going to have our down days.
Right.
Yeah. You need to have the days of kind of feeling for yourself a little bit. Like, be lying if I said I didn't have a couple drinks the day I lost my job.
Straight up. Yeah.
But, but then it's like, all right, then it's time to strategize. Like, job's done. Yeah. Not going back. So, yeah, I think there's, and it's a practice, got to kind of callous yourself to, all right, like me personally struggling with like some emotional things, like, oh man, but that I learned a lot of lessons. Like I'm a more understanding man. I'm a more patient man. And I like to think I understand the small stuff, like what really matters, what doesn't. What do you really get bent out about, or what do you just, all right, that was some dumb shit. Like, let it go. Like that person's being an idiot, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, man, most things really don't matter that much.
That's true, bro.
Like most things don't fucking matter at all. Like we freak out about this thing and that thing. Oh, they cut me off. Oh, like they're making me go get groceries, or my wife's like, whatever, bro. Like, you know, like relax, shut your hole under your nose and start breathing through your nose. Bring that stress level down. But yeah, it's a tough one. But yeah, I love how you said you couldn't be stuck in the victim mentality, because then there's some nasty rabbit holes that stem from that too.
It's a dirty, dark place, man. And it's not fun. And it's still an ongoing battle. I have my days where I'm like, what the fuck is this? I wake up and I'm like, why did this happen to me? And then I just try to flip it, man. And you just keep working at it. You keep working at it, and it gets easier. It doesn't necessarily get easy. I think, like you said, people try to make it seem like, oh, overnight, boom, I hit it, we're good to go. Like, I don't have any trouble anymore. It's like, nah, this is a lifelong battle now. This is a lifelong journey that I'm on, of convincing myself of this. So, and that's why I found you interesting, man, because you're just like, fuck it, have my down shit, but let's do this. Let's turn it into something bigger. And you just seem so happy, So
yeah, I mean, I like to think for the most part, pretty happy guy. Which is kind of like when I do have a down day, other people around me notice. It's easier to notice. Or if like I'm having one and I'm supposed to lift with a friend, I'll be like, hey man, I'm kind of just in a mood today. It's nothing about you, but if I'm not talking, let's just get in, move some heavy shit and get out. Like, but I'm better about voicing that to people. Whereas a few years ago, I would just kind of be kind of bottled up, and they'd ask me just a simple question. I'd kind of give an answer, but it's like, yo, you cool, man? Like, did I do something? All I did was ask you this simple thing. Like, did that rub you wrong? You know what I mean? Yep. So, yeah, I'm much better about telling people like, hey man, I'm just kind of in a place today, nothing with you. We're kosher, but I'm reeling it in. But I was going to ask you, since we were on the topic, what kind of, I don't know, lessons or blessings in disguise have you had kind of come through since your accident? Anything that's like, oh man, okay, like it helped me realize maybe XYZ or anything like that, different found appreciations since that happened?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. One for me, I think that really stands out is life's illusion of choice. So before, I had these plans. I wanted the Ferrari. I wanted, these cool material things. I also wanted, certain ways of being when I was older. It's like, I always want to be in shape. I always want to be the guy that's walking around and, hanging out and able to, maybe run a basketball game at 55 years old or what have you. And, I wanted to get good at golf. I wanted to do all these things. And I was like, yeah, my choices were streamlined significantly, but now I really got to fucking pick. Now I really got to focus. Now I really got to decide what is it that I want and block out the noise. And so it kind of made some of the choice for me, because I'm like, okay, here's a set of things I'm left with. Which ones bring me the most joy? And so I think taking away the illusion of choice, because I think we all think that we can do everything, and that's just not true. There's not enough time in life, So I think that was huge. I also think patience, man. I have so much more patience for others because I realize that there's this mental component to life that you don't see. And so, everyone has their battles. Everyone's going through something, and you don't know their level of experience. You don't know what's happening in their day to day and what they just walked away from. So yeah, John sent me the email 2 days late, and it's not the end of the world. Maybe John's dog just died. Maybe he just found out he had cancer. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a reason. What can I do? Like, I think so it made me look more forward than backward. What can I do moving forward now, given this set of circumstances?
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Yeah. I think, yeah, patience and grace is something that hard learned, but once you understand, like, oh man, small stuff. It's all small stuff.
Yep.
There's a book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And one of my favorite books, I think anyone and everyone should read it. And they're
Okay.
like 2-3 page chapters. I guess it's a little thicker book, a couple 100 pages, but they're like 2-3 page chapters of just stuff that we all think that we know, but then it's like stuff we need to really read and hear again. Where it's like, yeah, like that little fight, that was nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just super small stuff, like to your point, the email, traffic. Hey, you're late, leave earlier.
Yeah. Hey, and even with my wife, people will argue like with their spouse or, significant other about the thermostat and stuff like that. Like, we don't fucking argue about it anymore. It's like, yo, you cold, here goes a blanket. Like, you hot? Like, let me, open the window or, something for you.
Oh, hey, did you turn this up a little bit? Yeah, it's cold. All right, cool. I'm going to turn it down. All right.
Right. Yeah. You good if I change it? All right. Like, move on.
Yeah.
So there's all these little things in life, like, that you get bent out of shape about, that you realize, like, what the fuck? Why do I even care about this?
Mm-hmm.
I'm making myself miserable. No one's having this experience but me.
Mm-hmm.
And once I realized that, it's like, damn, I can kind of shape my day by what I choose to think about, as much as you can. Like, you can't 100% control your thoughts, right? Because if we all could, like, it's shit, why would you ever have a bad day? But there is a significant amount, I think, that you can control based on what you focus on, based on what you consume, what you read and stuff like that. So
yeah, absolutely, man.
Tell me about some of your influences, man. I've been, curious about that. I know you read a lot, and that's a segment on your podcast. Who are some of your influences?
I'd say podcasting wise, obviously, like, who doesn't love Joe Rogan?
Right. Yeah. He's a beast.
Yeah, dude, he's been doing it for years, man. And that's the thing, he just kept doing it. That's how he got that big. So him, in terms of health and fitness on podcasts, Mind Pump, been listening to them for a long time. They're really good at what they do. And like, that is their full-time business.
Wow.
And so, yeah, that's super sweet. Try to think of who else I listen to. I'll listen to like some other business podcasts. I like Bigger Pockets for real estate. I'll listen to some other things with networking involved, like some network businesses involved with that. It's interesting. I still try to listen to some, but when you start doing your own shtick, it's like you consume so much less of everyone else's thing. But yeah, I still try to listen to what I can podcast wise. Book wise, I'm reading right now Mindset by Carol Dweck. And so all of our coaches at the gym, because I coach CrossFit classes at the gym too on the side. So we're all reading that. And then I'm also reading How Emotions Are Made. I forget who that author is, but yeah, so far I like that one. That one kind of really got to pay more attention to it. It gets a little more science-y, but talks about, how we create emotion. And since that's like kind of such an uncontrollable, at least for me in my mind, at least understanding how they're made, how to respond and react, I think that would be good for me with some certain things where I'm at, is understanding, okay, how do we create emotion? How do we handle emotion? Where does it really come from? So just started that one as well. I have this bad habit. I'll start like 2 or 3 books at a time. Then it takes me so much longer to finish each one. But
I do the same thing, bro.
yeah, I'm like, okay, let me start reading the stuff that I need right now. So yeah, the one is for all of us coaches. And then, I'm reading the emotion one just kind of for myself. But then, man, like I see, like my dad has created a pretty incredible life for him and my mom. And, he actually worked for Simon Property Group, where I started right out of college. So it's kind of serendipitous. I started where he started, and then a few years in, he was one of their initial corporate accountants, moved up to Northwest Indiana, take care of the family business in Chicago. That was struggling. So him and my mom, they moved up, had like no money, and he started doing sales for them. It was graphic design. He took over. They had to pivot to marketing solutions. He's got his own private real estate business. So he has right now a handful of big like commercial business buildings.
Okay.
Started in residential, fixed and flipped one, got into a couple duplexes. So, I look to him for a lot of his business savviness. It blows my mind what he's been able to do. So I'm like, man, I just want to create like that. And my mom with her, she was a pharmacist for 30 years with Walgreens, and they kind of slowly inched her out of it. And so she's a healthy lifestyle coach now. And so, yeah, she's just been, her consistency is unparalleled. And she keeps hammering it, blogs each week, same day, no matter what time the night before it gets done, it's got to go out. Okay. And so, yeah, I've had good, close to home influences. And then I've started to really surround myself with people who are really up there. So my buddy I live with now, I live with him and his girl, but he helps me stay on. We both have very ambitious goals, but we're both looking at trying to go in on a property together later this year, get out of this house, start that up. So it's kind of one of those, hey, I pull you, you pull me. If someone starts to drag, we pull it. The people I was networking with today, it's just, this guy's talking about this. He just rented a house in Mexico for a month, and they know someone who just got this Ferrari. Like, yeah, there's material things, but these people know something that I don't know yet.
Right.
And so now it's like, okay, I don't have the fruits of my labor yet. I've just recently planted my trees, but if I can surround myself with people who've kind of won, quote unquote, made it, however you look at that, to me, that's freedom of time because you're financially free. To me, that's like, you made it. You don't have to worry about payday, your bills, nothing. You have all the time to do with whatever. So it's, I still have like all my friends, homies from college, like this and that. Cool. Yeah, we'll do whatever. It's like, man, I'm trying to build. And so now it's like the people I hang out with the most gotta be fucking animals. They gotta be just absolute winners who are treacherous to deal with if you're on the opposing side. Like, I need to hang with these fucking savages who can get it done.
Yep. Yeah, man. Your circle really does make a difference. And I want to talk about your homie that you live with, man. So I know for some people, it's really hard to have people push them because you have those days when you're like, fuck, I don't want to do this shit at all. And like, you might get defensive or what. So, what are some ways that you guys communicate with each other that you're still able to push through, those times when you're like, fuck you, man, I just want to chill today,
Man, I believe in questions. I believe a lot in questions. So, for example, small accountability thing he and I have, he's working on his nutrition and exercise. He was a great football athlete, was going to play in college too. What they wanted him for wasn't his desired position. It just didn't work out. Right. And so now he travels Monday through Thursday for his job. And I'll hit him up Tuesday, Wednesday. Hey, man, how's the food and movement been this week? Okay. Oh, man, it's been shit. I've been pushing these 12-hour days. Didn't have a backup plan. I couldn't. Like, all right, 12-hour days is a long one, man. That's a long one. I just try to get out and move a little bit. Take a little walk, he's coming off an Achilles rupture injury. So, hey, do some calf raises. Just do a little bit, pickleball, man. Pickleball is the most dangerous fucking sport in the world. It's not made for geriatrics. That's bullshit. I pulled a hammy the week before he ruptured his Achilles. Same shit. Pickleball, man. Dude. Yeah, pickleball. So it's stuff like that. I think questions you're asking, you're not accusing. You're not saying, look, if we're supposed to do something or meet up and I'm super late, it's like, yo, dude, you're late as fuck. You get one of these. All right. Yeah. Like, you hate wasted time. I hate wasted time. I think we deserve those once in a while too. Hey man, you're kind of sucking it right now. Like, you really blew yesterday. Let's get back on track. We're kosher. Let's get it back. We don't have as many of those. But I think throughout life, if you have people that are going to give it to you like that, you probably deserved it. I've had some hard truths with people where it's like, hey, I can't check in on you if you're doing your stuff every day. So if you don't come to me with anything to offer to XYZ audience or people, like, I can't help you. And I don't have the time to take away from my business to help you with yours. So
it drag you along,
100%. Yeah. They'll guide, but they're not going to force you. Like, and to them, to any mentor or anyone seeing, like, is the effort there? I kind of think of business, people are so willing to help. People who have, made it beyond belief. Like they're so willing to help if they see you help yourself.
Yeah.
And I kind of think, whether this is good or bad of me to think in religious terms, I think sometimes that's how the way God might work. It's like, all right, man, if I'm just sitting like in pain and sulking and like, yeah, we'll have those days. But man, if I'm not like understanding, like you talked about getting defensive, I'm a defensive person. And then it's understanding, okay, why am I defensive? What insecurity is driving that? If you do the work of the self-growth and understand yourself, and you can help bring yourself out of these holes a little bit, if you give yourself a little step, a little push, God's going to lasso you in and pull you out, So I think the same with business. If someone's like, hey, can I ask you to help me with this? Like, yeah, let me see what you got so far. Oh, I got 0. What do you want me to do?
Right. Yeah.
If you're stuck in a process, you're held up. Let me see. I think, and as I think it should be, I think people should see the effort, and then they know they're going to help someone who's going to take the advice, hear it, not be like, oh, that's not right. It's like, oh, what are you asking me for?
Yeah.
So in terms of accountability, I think it's great to have people. And if you're not having people that are like pushing you and pulling you and every once in a while give you a little boot in the ass, you're either super solid, you're really good at everything, or you're just content, which is totally fine. If you're like, no, man, I don't want to do more than what I'm doing right now. I clock in, I clock out, got a family, that's it, food on the table, I'm done. Okay.
Yep.
Dude, if that's your stick, dude, as long as you're solid with it, that's cool.
Yeah, respect you for it,
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%. Then there's me. I'm like, oh man, I'm not pleased. I'm never fucking pleased, right? Blessing and a curse. But I think accountability is huge, man. Mentors and accountability, it's monstrous.
That's what's up, man. Mm-hmm. I know there was I forget who was telling the story. There's some celebrity who was telling the story how their car broke down on the side of the road, and they're waving for help, and no one's fucking stopping, waving for help. And they're like, all right, finally, I'm gonna push. And they start pushing their car, and somebody stopped. And it's like, oh, people see you trying to help yourself and trying to get yourself out of the situation. They're like, okay, I can help that person. I can help the person who's trying to push their own car. So I think that's dope.
Yeah.
I think another thing you said I thought was interesting is when you feel that defensiveness and you get that insecurity, then you start to ask yourself the question, why am I insecure about this? Where's this feeling coming from? I don't think a lot of people take the second to ask themselves that. They just have the feeling and let the feeling fly, and they blame that feeling or associate that feeling with the other person, and therefore they're off put by them. But I think if people took that second and said, hey, why am I feeling this way? Is it because they just asked me a question, or is it because they're exposing something about myself that I don't like, and all they're doing is shining a light on it? They're not doing anything. They're just shining a light on it. So I find that interesting.
And yeah, man, 99.9% of the time it's got nothing to do with anyone but yourself. And
Amen.
A couple of years ago, I thought I was at the level of self-growth and awareness and this and that. I thought I was the man then that I am now. I'm not saying I'm perfect now, but I'm a whole lot further in terms of knowing myself, how to respond rather than react. But that's the work. It's like, why am I defensive? Like, all right, what is really driving my shit? Like, man, a few years ago, my road rage was out of control, man. I'd yell at everybody. Like whether they can hear me or not. Man,
is this an RLE coming on?
Yeah. I'd yell at fucking everybody, man. Ask Tim about it. He's been with me like in the past, and now it's like, dude, really? Like, do better. Just a simple, hey, man, do better. If I say anything, it's like, oh, what the fuck? Don't do that.
Right.
But even to something like that, it's identify like what's the real trigger. Is it a relationship thing? Is it a you thing? Is it because, I'm not where so-and-so is? Is it a money thing? Is it a job thing? Like what is your unhappiness being driven from? And that's the self-growth work. It's like people are like, oh yeah, I'm really great at making sure I'm self-aware and understand myself. Like, are you? Like, let's ask a few questions in and see how you're feeling. A simple fight in a relationship to where it's like, okay, just hear the person out. you might both agree that your intention was not to hurt their feelings. It's just the way it is, the way relationships are going to work. You're going to hurt each other's feelings. But it's like
Yep.
here, like, okay. Yeah. I understand how you can see it that way. Yeah. That's a tendency of mine for sure. I need to work on that. For me in past relationships, it was a mindfulness and defensive thing. I wasn't mindful of two people. I was so used to me. But yeah, and it's, a patience thing. Yeah. You and I have talked patience, but yeah, figuring out like, what are you insecure with? What's not cool with you and why isn't it cool?
Yeah.
And most of us have the answers to fix it. We all know the things, right?
Yeah.
We all know what we need to do. It's just, look, growth is painful, man. And it's like a lot of people stay unhappy because it's easy to be that way. It's exhausting, but it's easier.
It's like what miserable or what pain do you want to choose? The pain of growth or the pain of regret? The pain of not changing and realizing that you stayed complacent your whole life and that you exhibit these same qualities your whole life and you're watching people, grow up and change around you and you're still stuck. So it's like, it's easier to just admit it, man, I think at the end of the day, but it sucks. It's not fun. It's not tight.
Yeah, man, it's hard. And once you start though, it's like, all right, I see how I've evolved and it's super cool, but it won't ever stop. It can't. But once you start to get in the weeds, like, man, this sucks.
Yeah.
This is some hard shit. Like, this hurts. Like, man, I suck as a human right now, don't I? Like, kind of blow, dude.
Yeah. Straight up.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, shit, man, we're getting pretty close to the hour. But before I ask my final question, I wanted to talk about your CBD business, man. Tell me a little bit about that. Give me the pitch for it, because I'm real curious about it, and I know the CBD products are getting popular these days.
Yeah, man, CBD is the Wild West. Unfortunately, it's like the supplement industry. It's not regulated. You and I could make branched chain amino acids in a brown paper bag in your garage and sell it tomorrow, straight up, and we couldn't get sued a dime for it. As long as we have our labels in check, you and I, man, we can make whatever we want, label it up right, sell it.
Damn.
Yeah, it's and that's the risk. But CBD is kind of getting the same. So I'll tell anyone and everyone, whatever, just don't buy CBD from a gas station. Like, God forbid.
Right.
So company started like as soon as pandemic hit, it started up. And so it's called Simply Nano, Simply with an I. And what we've done is we've used nanotechnology with the CBD to also incorporate what's glutathione. So with our nanotechnology, we have a patented system. And what happens is, first off, the hemp is USDA certified organic. So, we have contracts with, I forget, like 6-7 farmers ish out in Colorado, and it's certified organic hemp. So meaning the last 7 years prior, before our plants were put in the dirt, nothing was in that soil. Soil has been tested, cleaned. I forget the exact amount of miles, but we are a certain distance away from railroads, any other factories, anything like that. So there's no contamination, no pesticides, toxins, things like that. We do what's called the cold press extraction. So you actually squeeze the CBD, you squeeze out the hemp rather than using CO2 and ethanol, which a lot of big name brands use. It's faster, it's cheaper, but a cold press, like you've probably seen like cold press virgin oil or olive oil.
Yeah.
Maybe there's virgin oil too. I don't know.
No,
but
maybe.
But so cold press, it's actually kind of like squeezed out. You keep the integrity of the molecules, and you don't use CO2 or ethanol. I've talked to another kind of growing CBD company from West Coast. I'm like, hey, what's your all's process like? And like, oh, use ethanol. I'm like, oh, you worried about getting ethanol in your final product? Like, oh, it's a food grade ethanol. Bitch, ethanol's ethanol.
Right.
Artificial flavors and sweeteners are edible. Are those always safe? Nah. Like soybean oil, like partially hydrogenated oil, like all that's edible. It doesn't mean it's safe. So, from the organic hemp extraction process to delivery. So when we nanosize it, we actually use tiny little diamonds. And even our piping and what all this goes into is carbon fiber.
Okay.
So we're not using like metal or lead pipes for the exact reason we don't want that metal eventually breaking off, deteriorating into the product. So
Yeah.
every part of the system and the process is thought out to a T. Like it's much more expensive. It comes out a little bit in the price of a bottle, but it lasts you a month. But we've also added what's called glutathione. So your body naturally makes both. We have an endocannabinoid system. Our body just doesn't produce enough cannabinoids, and our body makes glutathione, but our body makes less as we get older. So glutathione, it's kind of like our body's master antioxidant, basically. Imagine like fly paper, like that sticky paper you hang to
Yeah.
catch flies and bugs, insects. Imagine that's kind of like glutathione attracting free radicals, kind of this more stressful, free floating molecules that aren't attached to anything throughout our body. Maybe it's from inflammatory foods or stress, whatever it may be. And glutathione helps attract those free radicals and flush it out of the body. So I think that's where we've seen a lot of really incredible changes with people. I can't say that it helps heal or fix things, but we've had some people, like my grandma, she's not taking her pain for her meds for her back pain. We've had people come off blood pressure medicine. We've had post-cancer patients, post like chemo, that have less pain, anxiety. Biggest thing for me, mood, anxiety, and workout recovery. That's why I
Okay.
like it. For me, mood, you know, at the time I started using it, a little more irritable, just bullshit going on, it kind of calms me down. Much better now, but I like it for just everything I got going on, stress and anxiety. It's always flying around. So sleep, better quality sleep is another big one. But yeah, our body, we have endocannabinoid system. So it's not like we're putting anything foreign into our bodies. We're just bringing it back up to homeostasis. And we're the only ones with the glutathione, only ones using nanotechnology with CBD. And eventually we'll have more things come down the line. But right now we're focusing on the wellness cream. And, like my buddy chiropractor, I've used it on patients. He's used it on patients, with consent, of course, because you never know how people feel about that. It's full spectrum. So it's got the legal amount of 0.03% THC, but it's been studied. THC with CBD is having more profound effects than just CBD alone.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a topical cream. You can spot treat it. Otherwise, we tell people, so like, oh, your low back hurts, or, I'm rehabbing another friend of mine. He just pulled a hamstring. I've used it on injuries before. And I think it helps expedite because you're getting, that healing property of the glutathione in there. So I think, yeah, we're just doing it different. And I think we're doing it the most proper, objectively. I'm going to have some bias, but I think I've talked to other companies and how they're doing it. And, they're all kind of doing a similar system. And even if someone does a cold press, like I've asked, oh, is your hemp certified organic? I don't know. Let me get back to you. Do you know every other part of your business and you don't know if your shit's certified organic or not?
That's a detail I feel like you would know.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you. Yeah. Where is it grown? How's it extracted and delivered? And, that'll tell you a lot about some CBD and hemp. But yeah, I love this stuff, man. Like I said, I use it 3 times a day. I wouldn't give my mom anything with an artificial sweetener in it. And she's hooked on the CBD. She thinks that she sleeps better. She had a little like this bump on her eye that the eye doctor was like, oh, I think we might have to cut it off. She's like, before we do that, let me see what I can do on my own. It's gone away. So yeah, I just tell people, don't put it on like an open wound, just like anything.
Yeah,
like
right.
Neosporin's the only thing for open wounds, right? So just don't do that shit. But yeah, so love that. That's something I didn't know I'd get super into, but my chiropractor got me involved with that. I've become close with the founders. We've done a podcast with the whole group of founders. I was with one of them today at the networking event. So, just improving that circle, and these are people with go-getters. And yeah, so if anyone wants to get learned on some CBD, wants to get involved with business, it's super awesome stuff. Yeah, I think it's incredible through and through, people to how we're doing it.
Yeah, man. I'll definitely have to check you out and, get myself some.
Yeah, I'll have to send you some, see if you like it.
That'd be dope, man.
Yeah.
Well, hey, question I'd like to finish the podcast with
is,
if you had the ears, eyes, and attention of everyone in the world and you could deliver a message, what message would you deliver?
Oh, man. It's funny being on this end of something like that, because on the end of ours, we always ask people how they want to be remembered.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah. Eyes and ears of everyone in the world. Man, I'd say stick to your gut no matter what, and do exactly the things you want to do. And it's like, you're always enough, but do exactly the things that you want to do. And that's it. Always be a good human, but do exactly what you want to do.
Oh yeah, man.
Because then, like, when you don't, you turn into resentment and this, and we blame. It's like, no, just do everything you want to do. That's it. And it's not that simple, but it's that simple. Just do all your shit, and dude, everything will come. So
that's amazing, man. So, hey, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'd love to have you on again. We'll have to, chop it up about some of these other subjects, man.
Yeah, man.
I'd like to get into stocks with you and stuff like that eventually. So
100%.
The podcast, where can people find it? All major platforms, right?
Yeah. So
it's just Radio.
At Off the Dome Radio on social media. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, at Off the Dome Radio. And then same thing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, just search Off the Dome Radio and you'll see it pop up. And then, my nutrition rehab is at Optimal Fitness RX. And then Simply Nano, just simply SIMPLI NANO is the main page for them. But if my Instagram, I have all my stuff tagged in my bio as well. So yeah, you can find all my pages. Just search Colin Slager. I'm Slagermeister on Instagram. That's my personal, but I hate Jägermeister.
Cool, man. Well, I'll make sure to put the links in the show notes.
All right, man. I appreciate you. Yeah, we'll have to chop it up. You, me, and my buddy Tim too. So we'll just keep it rolling.
Hell yeah. Sounds good, brother.
All right, man. I appreciate you.
Talk to you soon.
All right. We'll see you.
Yeah.